Some sleepovers are just fun and games, others become your worst nightmare. Story 1. The Man with No Shoes. I was 13 when this happened. Our friend Dylan invited me and two other guys, Corey and Malik, over to his place for a sleepover on a Friday night. His parents were going to be away for a wedding, so we had the entire house to ourselves. You know, typical stuff. Movies, junk food, some horror games, talking about dumb school drama. It was all good. His house sat at the edge of a wooded area, which felt kinda spooky at night, but we didn't think much of it. Around midnight, we turned the lights down and tried to freak each other out with scary stories. Dylan mentioned that his house was built in the late 60s and that sometimes weird things would happen, like lights flickering or hearing what sounded like whispers. We all laughed it off and told him to stop trying to scare us. Around 2 a.m., we were all lying on sleeping bags in the living room, half asleep, when Corey sat up suddenly. He looked toward the hallway that led to the kitchen and froze. I asked him what was wrong, but he didn't answer. Then he whispered, "Did one of you just go into the kitchen?" We all looked over. Nothing. Just the hallway light, casting long shadows from the furniture. I told him he was tripping, but Malik backed him up. He swore he heard footsteps a minute before. We paused the movie and listened. Nothing. Dead silence except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking wall clock. After a few minutes, we shrugged it off, blamed the late hour and too much soda, and tried to settle back in. That's when we heard it. A loud bang like something falling in the kitchen. We all jumped up. Dylan grabbed a flashlight and we followed him down the hallway. The kitchen was empty. Nothing on the floor, nothing out of place. But as we turned to leave, we heard a creaking noise from upstairs. It was slow, deliberate, like someone pacing. At that point, Dylan went pale. He told us the upstairs guest room was locked and hadn't been used in years. His dad always kept it closed. We stood at the foot of the stairs, trying to listen. The pacing stopped. Then, very softly, we heard what sounded like humming. A woman's voice, quiet and low, almost like a lullaby. Malik muttered, "I'm not going up there, man," and stepped back. Corey was already dialing Dylan's dad, but no one answered. The rest of us just stood there, not sure what to do. Eventually, Dylan decided he was going up, said maybe it was the pipes or the wind. He took the flashlight and started climbing the stairs. I didn't want him to go alone, so I followed. The others stayed downstairs. At the top of the stairs, everything was still. We walked slowly toward the locked guest room. The humming had stopped, the door was still shut. Dylan tried, the handle still locked. He leaned in, pressed his ear to the wood, and whispered, "There's nothing." Something slammed against the door from the other side. We both jumped back. The sound was loud, violent, like someone had thrown their entire body into it. We ran. I don't even remember going down the stairs. We bolted past Malik and Corey and locked ourselves in Dylan's room. Everyone was freaking out. Corey was crying, saying he saw something in the upstairs window as we came back down a silhouette of a tall figure just standing behind the curtains. We stayed in that room the rest of the night. Lights on, door locked, barely talking. No more noises came. When the sun finally rose, we packed up and waited outside until Dylan's parents got home. His dad was furious, said the guest room door was still locked when he checked it. No signs of forced entry, nothing missing. But the weirdest part, that room didn't even have curtains on the window, just blinds. And they were pulled all the way up. We never had another sleepover there. Dylan ended up moving the next year. He never talked about that night again, and I honestly don't blame him. Some nights, I still hear that humming in my head, and I've never looked at an upstairs window the same way since. Story 2. The Flickering Window. When I was in high school, my best friend Joey invited me to his place for a sleepover. It was his 17th birthday, and a bunch of us were coming, over 6 guys total. His house was kinda weird older, with creaky floors and an attic that always smelled like mothballs and damp wood. But Joey's parents were cool. They ordered pizza and let us hang out in the basement all night. The basement was partially finished, with old wooden support beams, a television setup, and a couch that looked like it had been there since the 80s. We brought down snacks and started playing video games. Around midnight, 2 of the guys passed out, while the rest of us stayed up talking. Around 2:30 in the morning, Joey asked if we wanted to see something creepy. He took us to the far end of the basement, where there was a small wooden door hidden behind some boxes. He said his parents told him it led to a storm shelter or something, but they never used it. He'd opened it once before, and the space behind it was basically a dirt crawl space that smelled like something had died in there years ago. Curiosity got the better of us, and we told him to open it. The door creaked loudly, and immediately the smell hit us: damp earth, mold, and something else, something sour. We pointed our phones in and turned on the flashlights. It was a narrow space, maybe 4 feet high and 8 feet deep, with wooden slats for walls and a dirt floor. As we were looking around, something caught my eye in the back corner, a bundle of fabric. I thought it was just an old blanket, but when Joey reached in and pulled it out with a stick, it unrolled onto the floor. It was a child's shirt, dirty, ripped. The fabric was stiff, like it had dry blood on it. None of us said a word. We all just stood there, staring at it. Then we heard a loud bang from upstairs. We ran out of the crawl space and slammed the door shut behind us. The guys who had been asleep were now awake, asking what was going on. Joey's face was pale. He admitted that when his family moved in 2 years ago, they were told the house had a history, but the realtor didn't go into details, just said it had been vacant for over a decade. Still shaken, we turned on all the basement lights and tried to act normal, but the atmosphere had changed. We decided to head upstairs to grab more drinks and calm down. That's when we noticed the front door was wide open. The porch light was on, and the cold night air was blowing in. Joey swore he locked it. He even showed us the bolt, which was still extended as if it had been unlocked from the inside. One of the guys checked his phone and said the motion camera on the porch had recorded something at 2:46 a.m. We all gathered around to watch. The clip was only 8 seconds long. At first, there was nothing, just a static view of the empty porch. Then, at the 7-second mark, a figure darted by the window. No sound, just a blur of movement. We couldn't make out a face, but it was small, child-sized, running past the front of the house. Joey called his parents, who were out of town, but they didn't answer. We locked every door and window in the house and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. At one point, someone knocked twice on the back door. Slow, deliberate knocks. We didn't check. In the morning, Joey's parents came home. We told them everything. His mom looked disturbed but not shocked. She sat us down and admitted something. She said that years ago, a boy had gone missing in that house. The previous owners were suspected, but the case was never solved. They left town, and the house stayed empty until Joey's family moved in. We told her about the shirt, and she asked us to show her. When we opened the crawl space again, it was gone. The shirt wasn't there. All that remained was a single muddy footprint at the edge of the dirt floor. A small one, like a child's. Story 3. The knife on the bed. Back in 2014, I went to a sleepover at my cousin Lily's house. I was 15 at the time, she was 16, and her parents were out of town for the weekend, so it was just us and 2 of her friends. They lived in a quiet suburb outside Minneapolis, on a long cul-de-sac surrounded by woods. The backyard sloped down into thick trees that stretched for acres. We stayed up late watching horror movies and eating junk food in the living room. Around 1 a.m., the power flickered once then again and cut out completely. At first we laughed, thinking it was perfect timing with the scary movies and all. We lit some candles and turned it into a ghost story kind of night. But after a while, the fun wore off. The house started feeling too quiet. Lily went to check her phone to call the power company, but she realized she'd left it in her bedroom upstairs. I offered to grab it for her. The upper floor was pitch black, so I took a candle and made my way up the creaky wooden stairs. When I got to her room, I noticed the door was cracked open. I nudged it gently and stepped inside. The window was wide open, and the curtain was flapping inward, like a breeze had just passed through. The thing is, I know it was closed. We had been up there earlier and watched it rain through that very window. I looked around, but didn't see anything out of place until I spotted a wet footprint on her wooden floor. It was small, bare, and smeared like someone had been standing there, watching from the window. I backed out of the room fast, candle shaking in my hand, and ran downstairs. I told Lily what I saw. Her face went pale. She said something really strange. I thought I heard the window open earlier, but I told myself I was imagining it. We checked all the doors. Everything was locked, nothing seemed stolen, but the fear was already there. One of her friends suggested we sleep in shifts just in case. I tried to rest, but around 3 a.m., I heard something that froze my blood. Footsteps above us. Slow, deliberate, crossing the upstairs hallway. We were all downstairs, all four of us. I quietly shook Lily awake, and she heard it too. The sound of movement shifting weight, a floorboard creaking, something being dragged. Then a loud thud. We grabbed kitchen knives and crept up the stairs together. The power was still out, so we used our phone lights. The hallway was empty. Lily's door, wide open again. We walked in and saw it. On the floor was a knife from the kitchen, one of our knives, placed neatly in the center of her bed. No one spoke. We just backed out and locked ourselves in the downstairs bathroom until sunrise. Later that morning, when Lily's parents came home, we told them everything. Her dad checked the house from top to bottom. In the backyard near the window that had been opened, he found footprints in the mud, leading toward the trees. The police were called, and we learned something that chilled us even more. A man had escaped from a psychiatric facility 2 towns over the night before. He had a history of breaking and entering and obsession with young girls. They never caught him. Not every sleepover ends with laughter. Some end in silence.